Welcome to the Veterans Archives podcast, where every veteran story is honored and celebrated. Join us as we delve into the rich histories and experiences of those who have served our nation. You can catch our podcast on all major podcast platforms, as well as every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wreaths Across America Radio. At Veterans Archives, we believe your story matters. Visit our website at www.veteransarchives.org to explore more about our mission, discover resources for veterans, and stay updated on upcoming episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to engage with our community. Subscribe, like, and share to spread awareness about our veteran stories. Whether you're a veteran, a supporter, or simply curious about the profound journeys of those who have served, Veterans Archives invites you to listen in, learn, and be inspired. Join us as we continue to honor and preserve the legacies of our veterans.
Today is January 23rd, 2025. We are here today at the American Legion in Howell, post 141, with Robert Brite. How are you doing today, Robert?
Good.
Bobby?
How's it going,
Sorry.
man? No, you're good.
So tell me a little bit about where you came from, where you were born, and kind of like your childhood upbringing.
Right. So I come from New York, Long Island. My mom and dad, my mother and father split up when I was really young, and so I had an adoptive dad who raised me and a whole bunch of other kids. There was about 20 of us, give or take a little bit. So he was a minister, and they brought in, he took in everybody that was unwanted. So black kids, white kids, Puerto Rican kids, all of them, all raised under the same roof with the same rules, the same everything. So it was kind of a unique childhood. Definitely poor. Well, I wouldn't say poor. We were rich in interaction, but as far as having what other kids had, we didn't have that. So we were definitely on the lower end as far as income and stuff. But it was a good childhood.
And where was this in New York?
Lindenhurst, right on Long Island.
So as you grew up, did you, what high school you go to, and did you play any sports?
So I went to Lindenhurst High School. I played lacrosse while I was there. So it was pretty good. Was in the ROTC program as well.
The JROTC?
Yep, Marine Corps.
Marine Corps?
Mm-hmm.
So did you know then that you wanted to join the military?
I did. I knew I wasn't joining the Marines, but I did have every intention on joining the Army, for sure.
Why not the Marines?
So, I wanted to go into the infantry. I wanted to be airborne, and the Marine Corps had limited access to those type of things. So, they couldn't guarantee you to be a paratrooper. That was out, right out. Wasn't an option out of the gate. So, the Marine Corps was not going to be my thing.
So when you decided that you wanted to join the Army, tell me a little bit about how that happened.
So I graduated in '85, and in 1990, Iraq had invaded Kuwait, and President Bush had put out a call for anyone that was able to serve to step up. We were at the time going against the fifth largest military on the planet, and they assumed that it would be relatively long and drawn out. So I joined, and I left for basic training in November of 1990, and they had canceled Exodus that year, so there was no Exodus because they were getting ready to gear up for the invasion, kick the Iraqis out of Kuwait and whatnot. And come January, it was over in 4 days. And that was it. I was stuck for 4 years for something that lasted 4 days. Right.
So you knew you wanted to be infantry and airborne. And tell me, do you have any experience doing that you would like to talk about? So,
no. There was nothing out there other than, the greatest stories that you read. And I read. I'm an avid reader. So everything that you read or the greatest events, It was always accomplished by the infantry. Every once in a while, I'll throw some tankers in there. Pat in 2nd Armored Division goes up there and bails out the 101st during the Battle of the Bulge, but it's not ordinary. Most of the time, everything is done on the backs of the infantry. So, if you're going to do something, go all the way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you were stationed, your first duty station was where?
Fort Richardson, Alaska.
Fort Richardson, Alaska.
Oh.
And can you tell me anything cool that happened while you were there?
So while I was there, I was in the Long Range Surveillance Detachment. It's a Lawrence detachment. They worked directly for the divisions. We were attached to an MI battalion. So right off the bat, that was awesome because, you were a whole, detachment of, infantry or commo guys, and they're assigned to an MI battalion. So you have, you're assigned with females. That's out of the ordinary for anybody in combat arms. And then, also being in that unit, we got to do a lot of different schools. So, I did, Air Force schools, I did some Navy schools, I did the Marine Corps Recon course. So I got to do a whole bunch of things that were definitely out of the ordinary. And, your average infantryman in a line unit wouldn't have had access to those things. So it was like a good place to be. And I met my wife there. She was attached to that MI battalion, so worked out pretty well.
So tell me a little bit more about like how you met your wife. What's the story? Did you see her at a bar?
So no, I met her in the barracks.
Okay.
So today, this would be considered bad. If anybody looks at it, history would if anybody looks at this through the lens of today versus historically, it would be, But I walked in and she was laying on her bunk, brand new, just got to Alaska.
And what was her rank when
she was private?
What was your rank?
I was an E4.
E4.
Yeah. So she was laying on her bed there, and I actually slapped her on her behind and said, "I'm going to marry you."
The first time you met her?
First time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did she say when you did that?
She didn't say anything, but she did tell her roommate, "That guy is disgusting, and there's no way I will ever date him."
Oh, really?
Right. So, and then she was kind of being harassed a little bit by a supply guy that, was just, inflating his resume and stuff like that. And, basically, well, I'm airborne as well, and I could be with these guys, but I choose not to, and I don't wear any of my stuff. And so he was really, really like laying it down hard on her, and she had, basically asked for a little assistance. So I drug him out of there, and after that, it was on. No problem.
And you guys have been married for how long now?
31 years tomorrow.
31 years tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, happy anniversary tomorrow. Yeah. So you were in Alaska from what year to what year?
91 to 94.
Okay.
And then 94, I went down to Fort Hood. I was stationed with First Cav, and she was over in the 2nd Armored Division. So we were both down at Hood together.
Okay, so when you re-enlisted, did they give you an option to where you went, or?
They did. We did a joint domicile. I re-enlisted. She did not. So they were getting ready to close. They were closing the 6th Infantry Division. Basically shutting it down. It was one of the divisions that hit that BRAC. So she had to go anyway. Her MOS was no longer going to be up at Fort Richardson. So she was leaving regardless. So, and then I re-enlisted for Fort Hood. So
when you got to Fort Hood, you went from very cold to very hot.
Yeah, we left Alaska in June, and in Whitehorse, Canada, we drove the Alcan. It was snowing. So we got to Fort Hood within the same month in June, and it was 105 degrees. So we spent that first summer dying. It was rough,
I bet. And when you were there, what your MOS was still 11 Bravo?
It was 11 Mike.
11 Mike.
Yep.
And what's the difference between 11 Bravo and 11
One's
Mike?
light, the other one is mechanized. So they've since done away with the 11 Mike MOS, but at the time it was a thing. So mechanized infantry.
And what did you? Do you remember what you worked on? Like, what's the vehicle?
It was Bradley's. I
Bradley's.
was on a Bradley. Yep. I went down there. I started off as a dismount, and was able to show my platoon sergeant had some mechanical aptitude. So I ended up being a gunner, and then eventually, before I left, a Bradley commander. So I was in the right seat. So it was good. It was a good assignment.
So the weapons that you used in Fort Richardson were
It was just light infantry, so M16.
M16.
That's it.
Machine gun.
No. The mission up there was to observe and not get compromised. So it was a passive mission basically of just reconnaissance, where you go to the line units and their mission is to destroy the enemy. So different.
Okay.
So
what weapon systems did you use when you were at?
So at Hood we had the M16, and of course I had the Bradley, which was a 25 millimeter chain gun. I had the coax machine gun, which is it replaced the M60, so the 240. You had tow missiles on that thing, so it was pretty badass.
So tell me a little bit more about Fort Irwin.
So Fort Irwin is like the armpit of the Army. It is one of the worst places to go. It's in Barstow, California. There's nothing out there. When you get there, you go out into the box. So you're basically on mission. You're either prepping for the mission, you're on mission, which is just an evaluation of your ability to operate as a unit, or you're cleaning up their crappy ass vehicles, making them better than they were when you got them, and turning them back in. So I found it to be less than productive. And one of the reasons I'm so harsh on NTC is at Fort Hood, the Second Armored Division was getting ready to close. So the 1st Cav picked up their rotations to NTC. So in the 2 years I was at Fort Hood, I did 5 NTC rotations.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
How long were each rotation?
So you're a month on the ground in Fort Irwin. Yeah, and it was like dismal. So absolutely.
Yeah. Did you do Fort Polk at all?
I did Fort Polk when I was light. So yeah, and actually it was I did Fort Chaffee. It was prior. It was JRTC, and then they moved it over to Fort Polk. So those were also crappy places, but they weren't as dismal as NTC. So
yeah. So I see you have the tattoo of Fort Hood.
The Cav, yeah, Cav tattoo.
Do you have any other tattoos that represent anything?
I've got the airborne, whole airborne thing,
nice.
Paratroopers, the infantry down here. So I've got a couple things here and there.
Yeah. What's the shield?
That's St. Michael, patron saint of paratroopers. So got the Last Supper going on. I got a little bit of everything.
Okay. Nice. So you're at Fort Hood, and at what point what happens when you leave there? Like,
well, so we ended up having our first child at Fort Hood, and we were getting ready to do a Kuwait rotation. So it was like, let's say it was a second one for the brigade, and I was not going. So it was ETSing while they were prepping to go, or extend and go with them. So I just ETS'd. We came back to Michigan, and I got a job with the phone company. It was a pretty good gig. My wife got a job with the phone company, so we were both working for I was working for Western Electric, or Lucent, formerly AT&T, and she was at AT&T. So we were doing it was pretty good, not too bad.
Let's take a quick break.
Veterans Archives is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we rely on donations from our listeners. If you are enjoying these stories and would like to support our continued efforts, please go to www.veteransarchives.org and select the donate button. Thank you.
And did you re-enlist into like the reserves or anything like that?
No.
Okay, so you got completely out.
I was out. Yep, I was IRR for 2 years, and then that was it. Done.
So what made you decide to get completely out?
So I either do something all the way or not. And my patience with doing things part-time came later in life. But, that getting out was, at the time, was the thing to do. I was done. I was just done. So, I was moving on to something else, And then September 11th happened. And,
Yep.
yeah, things changed after that, so.
What was your feeling when you got out? Like, how did it?
Felt great. I was like, hell yeah. I thought maybe I'd smoke some weed, didn't like it, so quit that real quick. And, it was great. It was great being able to grow facial hair, not having to worry about, mandatory stuck on a job. If I didn't like something, I didn't have to do it. Quit, move on. So there's a certain freedom that you get that you don't realize and you don't have in the military. Mm-hmm. If somebody wants you to shovel shit, you're going to go shovel shit. And that's just how it goes. And I don't know if you're supposed to use profanity on these tapes, but at the end of the day, if your civilian job, tells you to shovel shit, you can tell them, I'm not doing that and I'm done.
It's not in my contract.
That's right. So, my first job actually leaving the Army was working in an auto parts store. It was just temporary until I got into the phone company and somebody threw up in the vestibule entering the building. And my boss was like, you need to go clean that up. And I was like, you need to go F yourself. And that was my last day in the auto store. So, and that freedom, that ability to do this, you don't have that in the military. So it's one of the things that, it's kind of a good feeling to be able to walk away from something, but you're also not part of anything either.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That camaraderie, that having that group, your gang, that's gone. Now you're just, it's you and your spouse and your family, and you're on your own. So
you're not under the umbrella of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were a civilian. You had a break in service from what year to what year?
From 96 to 2001.
Okay, so in 2001, what happened?
September 11th happened.
Okay, so September 11th happened, and then
within the next couple of days, I was back in.
So tell me a little bit how that happened. Like, tell me a little bit about the.
I went down to the recruiting station, and I told them, I want back in. They were like, okay, we can take you back as an E5. I was like, done. So.
And you got out as an
E5.
Okay.
So I was E5P exiting. I would have picked up E6 in, I think, September of 96, and I separated in November of 96. So I just didn't have enough time to keep it, which sucks. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. So I could have kept it if I extended and went to Kuwait. That wasn't happening either. So.
I can understand that. And at that point, you had one child?
By September 11th, I had two.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had two.
So you have two kids, and September 11th, you go in, you join as an E5, what MOS?
11 Bravo.
11 Bravo. And
they made a paperwork mistake. They made me an 11 Charlie somehow. Don't ask me how. As a mortarman, never went to the school, had nothing to do with mortars. I had never even seen mortars fired up to that point. But somehow they made me an 11 Charlie coming back in. Huh. So it was bizarre.
And what happened? Tell me a little bit about what happened after that.
So I went to the unit over in Fraser, right? And from there, I was activated. I was down at Fort Benning. I actually got to train Pat Tillman, believe it or not, on commo tasks, skill level 1 stuff down at Fort Benning, because we were assigned to the training brigade down there. I mean, we were instructors. So, and after September 11th, they were pulling a lot of those guys to fill active duty positions somewhere. So we kind of backfilled those guys for, a year or so. And then I was transferred over to the 81st BCT, which was a guard unit. And that was to backfill. I think they were sitting at 60% strength, somewhere in that range. And I can't remember the numbers, so it may be skewed a little bit, but regardless. So, and that was full time. That was mobilized or active as well. And then I was ended up being we augmented the 1st Cavalry Division with the 1st Cavalry Division for my deployment to Iraq. Did that till 2005. So,
where'd you go in Iraq?
Iraq, I was in the northern portion of Baghdad. So, and I was up in Anaconda as well a little bit, up at Orion. So, if we weren't at our regular base camp, then I was traveling the country, basically we did like a week of QRF, a week of patrols, and then a week of what they considered downtime was EOD escort, which really wasn't downtime. It was kind of driving around the countryside, hoping not to get blown up.
Oof.
But
EOD's not a...
And then, and I got to go back a little bit because that started after when we first got that we were doing 18 hours patrols for 18 hours on. I mean, it was like exhausting. And then we had a couple of casualties, and they scaled us down to 12 hours on and 24 off. And that's when we went into that QRF rotation, patrols, and then escort duty. So. And the QRF was probably the best duty. That was kind of, you're hanging out and you only responded if something went awry. And on the QRF, I actually got to, experience a bunch of other units. We went out, we did a QRF for, the combat engineers for the Air Force, the Red Horse guys. They were hemmed up on Sword in Tampa. We got to go out there for that. And just a bunch of, convoys would come under fire somewhere, or they'd, get hemmed up somewhere, and, we'd go out and react, and so going out like that, you're already prepared. It's not like you're rolling out the gate prepared for the fight, right? And so your mindset's a little bit different. It's a little bit easier than reacting to contact, which, is, I'm not going to say it's harder to deal with. I'm going to say that reacting to contact adds a certain amount of stress, because you'll go out on patrols for 2 months and have nothing, and then something goes awry. So you're a little bit complacent, and now all of a sudden you're dealing with the unexpected. Where QRF, you're dealing with the expected. You're going out there. You're going out to either secure something or you're entering the fight. So it's just a little bit different. Yep.
Did you have anyone that during that deployment that was your mentor or your mentee that you'd like to talk about?
So man, I had a lot of great guys, and leadership was good. Leadership was exceptional. I think that I don't know. I look back and I still talk to a lot of the guys that I patrolled with or actively participated with during that year, and. I'm not saying anybody, I don't know if there was any mentors or mentees. It's kind of I think that when we went to Iraq, there was limited combat experience. And I can't think of a single guy that had been in that situation, even if they were in Desert Storm. I mean, there was no real combat in Desert Storm. So that was a first for all of us, brigade commander, battalion commander, all these guys. It was a first. So, we basically learned together. We learned to react together. Lessons learned together. Everything was done, as a team. And in April of 2004, when shit really turned sideways for us, I think that so from the emotional downturn from losing guys to picking yourself back up and going out and doing the job that you needed to do, I think that that was a shared experience, And there were some guys that couldn't quite hang. They couldn't make it. They went and did other things. They maybe were put on the radio, or they went and fixed vehicles with the mechanics or whatever. You know what I mean? It was, it was not unprecedented to have individuals that were maybe too high strung or just couldn't really deal with the tempo or whatever. I mean, I'm trying to stay nice and not talk down about anybody, because I don't want it to come off like that. It's just guys that couldn't handle being outside the wire doing their job. We found other things for them to do. That being said, our replacements or people that we used to backfill a lot of times were mechanics, E4 and below, or we had a cook. Guys that you went and grabbed because you were shorthanded. And I believe that's probably why the CAB came about. But so it was. It's hard to say that if there was mentors, or even mentees. I'm pretty sure that everybody kind of evolved together because it was just new.
Was there anyone that you were close with during that deployment?
A number of guys. So yeah, and I still talk to them weekly. So it's been 20 years for me, and 20 years since we came home. There's guys I talk to weekly, and that is, yeah.
And they're here in Michigan?
No,
they're all over?
No, all over the place. Yeah, some are in Texas, some are outside of Fort Lewis. So yeah.
So right now you're in Iraq, and what years were you in Iraq?
2004 to 2005.
And I'd say that is so you had like a 2-year tour?
It was a year. So it was OIF 2. It was start to finish probably 15 months. And the dates escape me, but I know it was around the Super Bowl time till April of 05. So
is this during like Fallujah?
Yeah. We had 2 battles of Fallujah out there. So one in April and one in November. So the country initially was kind of like a sightseeing tour. It was really, a bunch of pictures, good times, check out the mansions and stuff that Saddam had. And then, April, it kind of went a little bit awry, and not a little bit, it went a lot awry. It just was everybody realized that they no longer wanted us there, and so whatever they got independent-wise, they just, their independence that they had recently gained from Saddam was the novelty had worn off, and, they just wanted us out of their country, basically, and I'm not sure if it was, it wasn't just the Saddam loyalists, because you had the Shia militias, in Baghdad that were went insane and, caused a whole bunch of casualties and damage and stuff. So it just, it was, I'm not saying it was probably one of the harder years to be in that country. I'm pretty sure it was probably, the worst year, but.
Fallujah, Abu Ghraib was around that time.
Abu Ghraib happened at the same time, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you were there, was there any experiences that you remember? Like it's something that, like when you think of that experience, when you go back to it, is there any specific?
So, I think, one of the hardest things is first off losing, some of your guys, our guys. Losing guys is always a difficult thing, and then, coming home and dealing with their families is it just compounds the situation as far as, bad. It's definitely not easy to deal with, and especially if you were, over there and you were leading guys. So,
what was your rank when you were there?
I was an E6. I was an E6 over there. So I started off as a squad leader, and believe it or not, I left. I was a platoon leader, and that was just through attrition or poor decisions or whatever. But it just it's just how it worked out, and So the one of the hardest things I think, about coming home is not coming home with everybody. And I'm going to leave it at that, because it's just, I'll often tell a story. I attended a funeral of one of my guys. I escorted him home and sat next to his mom, and my wife was with me, and it's just, at the end of the day, it just wasn't worth it. And I hope she never hears that. I cannot think of a thing that is worth, these young men not coming back with us. So, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fast forward to, you find out, like, when the tour ends, you find out, like how do you find out when you're going home?
So, the funny thing is, you're supposed to go home at a specific date, then something comes up like elections, and you're like, oh man, they're going to send you to Mosul for elections in January. And you're kind of like, shit. Because at this point you're coming to the end, and you don't really want to go out on patrols anymore. It's not that you're afraid, but you're like, I made it over the hump. We made it through the worst time. April of 2004, November of 2004. We made it through these months that were just, real intense with insurgent activity, and now you got to go full security for elections, so they can have the freedom that you're currently not enjoying. You can't even have a drink. We lost guys that were 20 years old, couldn't drink here in America, couldn't have a drink in Iraq, and they'll never experience that. And so here we are staying longer so they can have elections over there that don't really mean shit at the end of the day, and it makes you question the political leadership at home, kind of like, what are these guys thinking, So
who was the president when you were there?
It was Bush. And I have no love for the guy. So these politicians make the same mistake every single time. They send us somewhere. We have the ability to win. We have the ability to, completely neutralize the enemy. And we don't utilize it. They pussyfoot around. They send us out on patrols until you get hit or blown up, and they just don't go in for the win because they're worried about public opinion or what the United Nations is going to say or whatever else, And if they have these concerns, then they shouldn't send us. If their policy is to go in and neutralize a threat and get their pound of flesh, then they should own it. But going in half-assed is no different than what happened in Vietnam. It's the same crap. It's just repeating itself. You figure these guys would learn. So I don't know how history will reflect on Iraq, but I can't see any net gain from that war, except for, maybe defense industry and a few real rich guys here in America. I just can't see anything at all. So Afghanistan probably falls into the same category. I didn't go there, but, after watching the withdrawal and leaving all our equipment and whatever else, it definitely hurts the individuals that went there and lost people there. I don't have a whole bunch more to say about it. It's just...
Well, President Trump just was inaugurated. How do you feel now that he's...
So I do feel that if he sends anybody anywhere, it is for the win. And while we are, instruments of policy, we swear, we take an oath to defend the Constitution and to, obey the orders of the president. I think that, some of these individuals that are elected, their word carries no weight. And I think that, Trump, I think his word carries weight. And if he goes somewhere, he means business. And you will not leave, with, the job half done. You will have to say we lost guys for no particular reason because, George W. Bush was, irritated that, his dad didn't finish the job or whatever the case may be, there's a lot of blood on the hands of these politicians, and I don't think that they care, and I don't think they lose a minute of sleep over it. So we spend the rest of our lives feeling guilt for things that we may have done or things that we didn't do, and we feel guilt for the outcome over something that we had no control of. And these guys, have don't lose a wink of sleep, and it's pretty sad, So
I agree. So you come home from Iraq, and what's the feeling that you have when you come home? Tell me a little bit about your homecoming. And
so I came home. We landed in Dallas, and there was like hundreds of people out there welcoming us home.
What was the date of that?
It was April of 2005. So I get complete with the, just do our, finish our mobilization, do all my paperwork, and I fly home. I land in Detroit. My wife and my kids pick me up, and I hadn't seen them in forever. So I go to hug my little daughter. She gets all stiff, like I'm a stranger or something like that. It was a little bit surreal, but I was home, and we get back to our house, and my wife's like, I need to go on vacation. I'm thinking to myself, man, I just got home. Like, this is just not how it's supposed to be. And again, I blame this on the military and leadership and their ability to ramp us up and get us going. But coming home, it's just dropped into civilization, and you're expected to come down off of this year plus of being at just a specific sense of alertness and everything else, and even your willingness to use force. So in my first few years at home, I mean, it was, I say years because it was years. It took me a long time to get back into any kind of normal routine, as far as not reacting in a fashion to where I was either hitting someone or doing something else. I'm not talking about my wife and kids. I'm talking about out in public where whether it was driving in road rage to just an altercation in a supermarket. I mean, it was really ridiculous. I'm lucky I didn't end up in prison, and I don't know how my wife put up with it, because she it would definitely stress her out. It's just a continued sign of the treatment of those who serve. And I don't want to make it sound like we're victims, but the reality is you go in, they prep you, they train you, they get you all set to go and do your job. Whether your job is fixing a radio or neutralizing the enemy, doesn't matter. And then when they drop you back in civilization, it's just a handoff. Here you are. There's no training to get reacclimated into your normal life. There's no, there's no off ramp. There's this giant on ramp, but you're supposed to jump off the freeway doing 90, and that's kind of how it goes, And I think that we owe all service members that off ramp, that ability to feel normal again, and I'm going to say that I come home in 2005, and I wasn't on a decent track until 2015, probably 10 years really, to where I was somewhat back to the way I should have been. So before I left, coached soccer for my kids. I was out and about doing all kinds of things for specifically related to family activities. And when I came home, I locked myself in the house for a decade. I went to work, I went through the motions, but that was it. And and I'm not going to say it's PTSD or any of these other things. I'm going to say that it's just no off ramp. Like tossing a cigarette butt out of a car window, doing 90 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. That's how you land back into society. And you don't fit. Square peg, round hole. You're just not. You just can't get back into a normal groove. And at least for me. And I'll see guys here at the American Legion, and they were in Iraq or Afghanistan, and I kind of feel they have that look where they're just not quite back, and it's disturbing. It's disturbing because there's nobody out there to help them except for, us. We're here, but that's it. So anywhere else, I think that, I think VA kind of misses the boat, and I do think that they're doing better than they did, but I think that, do
you feel like it's people like you that helped the situation? Like what happened to you that made you change, and what happened that? So what do you think helped you the most?
I think being around other vets, coming like to the American Legion, right? Becoming an active participant here. So the Vietnam vets are the guys that welcomed me when I came to this American Legion, right? And this Post 141, and I think that they experienced something similar. Now, they didn't get the welcome home that I got when I landed in Dallas. They didn't have the hundreds of people there cheering them on. So their homecoming was terrible. Things were thrown at them. They were called baby killers. It was all kinds of bad things that happened. But on the what mirrors our homecoming was just being dropped back into the public, back on the street. So my service, my ETS was 2005. I was back into the reserves full time in 2005. I had a bad year because I didn't report until 2007. And a lot of that was just from getting back and just being dumped into society. I was put on a mobile training team. I got to do that for a few years, which was, on ADOS orders, which was pretty good. That was being around, a group of guys that had all been in Iraq in 2004, 2005, but, and it was a 6-man MTT, 6-man mobile training team. We went wherever, training guys that were getting ready to deploy to Iraq that hadn't gone yet. And, but as a general rule, the handoff was terrible. I know I'm going off the rails here a little bit, and I'm kind of going on a tangent, but, So that mobile training team that I was part of, there were 6 guys on that team. 3 of those guys are gone. 3.
Gone as in they passed away?
Yes.
And how did they pass away?
1 suicide, 1 from brain glioblastoma. So it was a PAC Act-related illness. And then 1 of them just recent. He was just probably one of the most reckless human beings I'd ever met. Wasn't like that before he went, but he was certainly like that when he came home. And he was got mad at his wife, jumped on his motorcycle, rode all the way to North Carolina from Michigan, and was killed down in North Carolina. So, yep.
Sorry to hear that.
3 out of the 6.
Do you still communicate with the other 3?
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And so, how long were you in the reserves? Did you retire from the reserves?
I did. So I ended up with 5 bad years. How it happened, I don't know. It was just not going, and whether it was, civilian work or just didn't feel it, whatever. I fortunately that chain of command was very sensitive to those of us that had deployed. So I get a lot of leeway, a lot, because any other unit you go to, you get a couple bad years and you're done. And that place right there, they were like, well, I'm going to cut this guy some slack. So I did end up with 5 bad years. It's unfucking believable. But so I ended up with 26 years total. I retired in 2023, and I didn't go for the entire year before I retired either. I dropped my paperwork and I quit going. So
how many years did you ended up with?
26.
26?
26 years.
How many active reserve?
My active time total over 10, I think close to 13 years between ADOS orders and active time and whatever else, and then the rest was reserve. So
how did you know you wanted to retire?
The vaccine mandates and stuff was enough for me. Joe Biden. I'm not really a big political guy, but when you get these guys in there that can care less about the military, and we're all aware of it, it's time to go. So.
Yep. So yeah, the vaccine mandate probably eliminated a lot of people.
A lot of senior NCOs.
Yeah.
Walked on out the door.
So you get out, and what's the feeling once you retire?
So because I have this group of veterans that I run around with, you and all the guys at the Legion, transition was fine. It was seamless. A lot of guys I think don't quite have that. They don't have that camaraderie of a group of people that have come from the same place and maybe didn't do the same mission, right? But you still have a very similar background. And what I love about being out is we rag on each other for branch or MOS, but at the end of the day, our shared experiences bring that sense of brotherhood, and I use brotherhood as a gender neutral term, but it brings that sense of brotherhood to help feed that fire of inner peace, and I can't explain it any other way. I could not find peace until I found the people here. So I just didn't have it. My family couldn't do it. Love my family more than anything. I would do anything for them. And if anybody did anything like that, it would bring me back to violence in a moment. If anybody harmed my family, but that peace that I feel good about myself. That comes from being around your own kind, which is the 1%. Those of us that have served. So it's unique. And I don't know if I'm the only one like that, but I do believe there's probably quite a few of us like that, that just enjoy each other's company. And, that's enough. It's enough to help me sleep at night. It's enough to make me feel like I'm accomplishing something, so.
So you've been a member of the Legion here, the American Legion here at 141 Devereaux Post for how long?
I was coming in and out from 2015, but I actually joined in 2017.
Okay.
So I joined the post, and again, that was just from interacting with the old Vietnam guys, and feeling like we had stuff in common. Just that camaraderie was. It's enough sometimes. It's enough to balance out your life a little bit. Mm-hmm. So
what positions have you held at the Legion?
I was a finance officer and I was a commander here. So I did two jobs. I was finance officer for about 4 years and then a commander for 2 years. So both good gigs, pretty good. So.
And have you done anything with the Legion that you remember? Like, did you help? I know that we did something last year where we bought a car for a family.
So that was with partnering with an insurance company. We took care of a car for a vet that was transportation poor. I mean, we've paid off school lunches since over the last couple of years. We done an art program for the kids in the community, which brings in family members and veterans, and it's just a great thing. So this is probably one of the most active posts that anybody can be a part of. There's always something going on here. We enacted a $5 Thursday. It brings every veteran, family members, and just people from the community in here. A lot of people are like, well, why do you want to bring people from outside that aren't veterans in? Because they get to learn about what we've been through. They become a little more understanding or compassionate. So the funny thing about people who haven't served or civilians, and I'm not talking about family members, I'm talking about just Joe citizen out there is everybody is pro veteran or they're for the veteran right up until they put that, yellow ribbon on their car, and then they forget about it, and it's just a reality. We're not in the forefront of their mind. You make up 1% of the population, and if a veteran is homeless or unemployed, when it's in front of their face, it's on their mind, but other than that, it's not, and so the only way you really, get people educated or understand, the sacrifice that people have made in war and peace to ensure that they can maintain and have the point of view that they want, vote the way they want, write on Facebook the things they want to write, and the only way they're aware of why or how they have those freedoms is to know who we are or what we are, where we come from. And I think that so opening places like this up, and inviting regular people in, regular citizens in is imperative to the 1% that served. So our stories will continue to exist and be heard, and so the appreciation. So there's a specific appreciation that's there, and I'm not saying that people should be kissing our ass because we served. That's ridiculous, and we'd never want that. I'm not even comfortable when someone's like, "Thank you for your service." I'm always like, "What the fuck do I say to that?" So it's kind of a weird place, But I do want, when they talk about cutting, veteran affairs, VA benefits, or they talk about, you'll hear people say that, veteran benefits are a cost that can be cut because it's, they're overpaying or whatever. Well, regular citizens just say, that's bullshit. And that's the only way, we will continue to have what we have and will be taken care of from the government, is by the support of everyday citizens. There's too few of us, way too few of us, so people aren't educated to what we have done or what we've given, and they'll never know, Mm-hmm. And again, this isn't related just to combat veterans. I know I was overseas and I spent a combat tour in Iraq. It's just, it's the sword and the shield. There's a lot of people that stand at the ready, that aren't called, but have written the same check, signed the same contract, right? And, these guys are all part of, again, guys, plurality, there's no gender assigned to that. These people, right, they have signed up and they've given, X number of years of their life to guarantee the freedoms of everyday Americans, and it's huge. It's huge. I don't care if you did 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 20 years. It's still a huge commitment. People are off in college, and they do 4 years in college, and Americans are like, oh, well, they signed up and they didn't realize what kind of debt they were going to be in, and we should probably forgive this. But you got a veteran that served 4 years and they lose a leg, and people are like, well, that's what they signed up for. There's this giant oxymoron of the way people view things, Mm-hmm. So you had 13 young people, 12 of them were under 25 years old that were killed in the exodus from Afghanistan, and
if someone was listening to this interview, what would you want them to take away from our conversation?
So service to this country is not getting elected. It's not, running for office and being a career politician. Service is raising your right hand, whether it's in, law enforcement or as a firefighter or as, a military enlistee, right? And service is based off of giving of yourself for the good of this country. And most people who serve, they come from a family that has served, and they have a specific desire to do so. They're different than your average American, and it's something that is you're born with. Because if you're not born with it, you'll follow the trail of going to get rich somewhere or whatever else. Nobody's getting rich in the military, and I think that if you have that, then you should you should consider doing it, because I don't think you'll ever be happy unless you do commit. If you're born with that desire to serve. So that being said, I think that going off to serve your country in a time of war is difficult, and there's a certain amount of guilt that you're going to live with when you come home, and you'll never escape it. Is it worth it? I think so. I think it's worth it. I think that, while I disagree with the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan, and I don't necessarily think that it was the direction our country should have gone in, I would do it again tomorrow. The best people I have ever met in my life have served this country in some capacity. Some served from 1985 to 1990. Nothing going on in the world, peacetime. They fought in the Cold War, basically, and they're responsible for bringing down the Berlin Wall and the fall of the Soviet Union. Others, were instructors and sending new guys overseas, and it doesn't matter what they did, or where they served. It's just the caliber of people that you meet in service, and nothing's 100%, but as a general rule, I think that the best people I've ever met in my life have been in uniform, and the people I prefer to be around are veterans who've worn the uniform. We've, in my opinion, given a little bit more to America, and while politicians will stand there and pat themselves on the back and congratulate each other on their accomplishments. I think that they're all second-class citizens, because if they haven't put on the uniform, they don't mean shit to me. So this brotherhood that we're part of, nothing can take it from us. No one can take it from us, and. And again, my opinion, nothing more, nothing less. We have written ourselves into the history books with our service, and through that, we live forever. So, yeah, I know it sounds kind of hokey and shit, and I get that, man, but at the end of the day, I couldn't be prouder of my service, my wife's service, and those that I meet with, talk to, and deal with on a daily basis. I just can't say enough. We're here in America, in this free society, because of all of these people, and nothing will diminish my opinion on that.
Thank you for listening to the Veterans Archives podcast, where every veteran story is honored and celebrated. Join us as we explore the rich histories and experiences of those who have served our nation. You can catch our podcasts on all major podcast platforms, as well as every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wreaths Across America Radio. At Veterans Archives, we believe your story matters. Visit our website at www.veteransarchives.org to discover more about our mission, access resources for veterans, and stay updated on upcoming episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to engage with our community. Subscribe, like, and share to spread awareness about our veterans' stories. Whether you're a veteran, a supporter, or simply curious about the profound journeys of those who have served, Veterans Archives invites you to listen in, learn, and be inspired. Join us as we continue to honor and preserve the legacies of our veterans. Remember, your story matters. Visit us online today at www.veteransarchives.org and connect with us on social media and stay informed and engaged. And as always, thank you for your support.